Welcome aboard the Ear to There podcast, the podcast that'll help you vacation like a pro in any Disney destination. For those of you standing, please sit down and hold on throughout our journey and get ready to learn how to have the time of your life. And now, here's your host, Phil Gramlich.
Man, I love that intro. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There podcast. I'm your host, Phil Gramlich. I'm also the owner and operator of Ear to There Travel, a Disney specialized travel agency. It's my job to help you have the best Disney vacation possible by taking away the stress and anxiety of planning a trip so you can focus on the fun things like having a great time with your friends and family and enjoying the magic. This is episode 23 for the week of July 4th, 2016. Now grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. If you don't know what a hidden Mickey is, let me give you a little background. Disney's Imagineers have hidden an image or a sculpture of Mickey Mouse in attractions, restaurants, pretty much everywhere all over the Disney parks and resorts for decades. The thing is, these Mickeys can be really difficult to spot. As the wise sage Bono once said, "I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for." Luckily for me, this week I won't have to climb any city walls, as I've called in the big guns to talk about the hidden Mickeys of Walt Disney World. Here to talk to me about his series of books on hidden Mickeys in the Disney parks, resorts, and cruise line is the hidden Mickey guy himself, Dr. Steve Barrett. Steve, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I'm just so happy to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I've had your books for years, and I've taken trips to Walt Disney World with them, and a bunch of times my wife and I have used them. And then last year I took a solo trip out to Disneyland, and I didn't have your Disneyland one, so I bought one when I was out there and got to experience a whole new set of hidden Mickeys out there. So that was really fun. So thank you for all your hard work and for getting these out there for us.
Thanks for getting my book. I always appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I'm actually going to give a couple away. I'm doing a contest next week on my Facebook page. So for anyone listening now, I'm going to have a special offer. I'm going to give away 3 of your hidden Mickey field guides to Walt Disney World's books. So I'm going to give 3 away next week. So hopefully that'll be anybody listening. Make sure you go to my Facebook page, and these books are awesome. So I'm hoping some people get to really enjoy them like I have. So let me ask you, how did your Disney, can I say obsession? How did your Disney obsession get started?
You can say obsession.
All right, because I say that about myself, but I don't want to offend you. But were you always a Disney fan? Were you a Disney fan from the time you were a kid?
No. In fact, I really didn't enjoy theme parks even that much.
Wow.
And I came to Orlando for a business conference. And my wife suggested, well, let's drop by Disney World since it's there. And I set foot on property, and it changed everything for me. I mean, it was so different from any theme park that I'd ever been to before. And I just got kind of lost in the detail and the ambience, and I've never looked back. I love everything Disney pretty much.
Yeah, now you're a local, right? You live down near the theme parks and get to go pretty often.
Exactly. I took my first trip to Disney World from Oklahoma, and that was the Orlando trip I mentioned. And about 10 years later, we were coming so much, several times a year. But about 10 years later, I said, look, I'm just going to get a job there and move to Orlando.
Yeah, sure.
So I can go to Disney World all the time. So that's what I did. And I love Central Florida. It's a wonderful place to live, especially if you're a Disney fan, of course. So, I go right now. I visit Disney World at least every other week, for many years now, and I never get tired of it.
Yeah, I was the same way. I was a cast member. I was a cast member back in 1998, and then I was on a college program then, and then I was a hourly cast member after that in the early 2000s for a while. And you know what? I kick myself all the time for moving back to Philadelphia and having to deal with the cold weather and the winter and the snow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife and I decided to move back up here, but we're down a lot, and I now that's why I went into this career. Now I still Disney travel for a living, and I'm doing the podcast, and I love it. So like you,
Wonderful.
If I could live down there, I would. But now I have little kids, and they're in school, so we're here for a while. So when did you start really taking an interest in the Hidden Mickeys? Was it on that first trip that you took, or was it later on down the line?
Well, the other interest that I have a passion for is writing, and I was actually a professor in Oklahoma at the University of Oklahoma, and I wrote book chapters and I did research and wrote journal articles, I mean what an author gets a lot of satisfaction from is not only the writing itself, but how people respond to it. And I learned then that I like having people appreciate what I write. So, I just think about writing all the time. Well, about that same time is when I sort of developed this love and obsession with Disney. I was reading everything about Disney World, Walt Disney, the books, everything I could find, and I came across Hidden Mickeys, of course, and all that reading. But I said, well, I'm coming to Disney World so much, and I was at about that time I was bringing family and friends with me to experience the parks like I saw them. And my first book, I wrote a guidebook for Disney World, and found a publisher. This was in 2001. And so I wrote a guide. I updated it every year for 10 years. It was called The Hassle-Free Walt Disney World Vacation.
Right,
and
right.
I enjoyed writing the guidebook. And about 2 years into it, about 2002, my publisher asked me if I had any other ideas for Disney books. And I said, well, I'm collecting this file of Hidden Mickeys because that's sort of at that time it was, Disney didn't talk about Hidden Mickeys much in the early years.
Right.
And it was sort of kept under the rug. And I said, we might try to write a book about Hidden Mickeys to kind of bring it out in the open. And it is actually my publisher. I mean, we didn't just want to write a book and catalog Hidden Mickeys. My publisher suggested, well, let's do it in the form of scavenger hunts, efficient scavenger hunts based on, the efficient touring plans that are out there. How to walk through the Magic Kingdom and not wait in line too long, and minimize waits in line. So I said, I wrote scavenger hunts, say, for the Magic Kingdom, so that if you wanted to find all the Hidden Mickeys in one day, which is, boy, that would be a big task, but at least the scavenger hunt allows an efficient approach to that. And so that's the way the books came about, as scavenger hunts. And I like that format. I mean, the first part of the book are called clues, which are sort of basic descriptions of where to look for a certain Hidden Mickey. And if you can't find it, then you turn to the last half of the book, which are called hints, which are much more elaborate descriptions of exactly how to find the Hidden Mickey.
I kind of feel like you're cheating if you go to the back of the book, though, don't you?
Yeah, you only get points if you do the clue.
Right.
You find them with the clues. So, that was a fun format. And my first Walt Disney World book came out in 2003. And then 2 years later, we expanded to Disneyland. And then 2 years after that, the cruise ships. So it's just been, I work on it every day. I love it. It's just people write me. They email me at my website every day about Hidden Mickeys. And I go out and find them and, verify them. So it's just a really fun hobby, and I don't think I'll ever tire of it, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing that, it's such a little niche Is that the right way to say it? Niche? I always forget. Thing that you found. And if you didn't have the idea, I really don't know if that would have been made. It's because it's such a cool thing to go through the scavenger hunt. I love that format. As someone who now goes by myself sometimes for business trips, I keep the book in my back pocket. And if I have time, if I'm not going on attractions, I'll flip through and, wherever I am, I could look around and find a couple of hidden Mickeys.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing to have. And I like how it's designed too, because it can fit in my shorts pocket when I go to the parks. So it's it's a nice little perk.
Yes. And, again, when I put the first Hidden Mickey's book together, it was 2002 when I was writing it. And it took me about 6 months of going out to Walt Disney World, almost every day or several times a week. And I would talk to cast members but again, the Hidden Mickeys were not an accepted subject to talk about at Disney. And not a lot of the cast members were that receptive to it. Some were, and some knew what they were.
Right.
So, the Hidden Mickeys were the term originated in around 1989, 1990 when folks were finding these Mickey images hidden in the pavilions at Epcot pavilions and World Showcase, and somebody. In fact, it was a cast member who used the term or something similar to the term Hidden Mickey first in about 1989. But then through the 90s, it just exploded. The first website I remember talking about Hidden Mickeys was in the early 1990s, back when websites were just starting. I mean, they were archaic. And it was two college students at Stetson University, which is north of Orlando. And they started posting Hidden Mickeys, and I printed some of those early pages, and I still have them. And so, I like to think having a book out there sort of alerted people, especially a guest who was walking through the park, and they might see my book or see it in a bookstore. They would say, "Well, what are Hidden Mickeys?" They would keep that in their mind, and then when they went to a Disney park, they would maybe connect with a cast member or look for them on their own. So I like to think that I helped the Hidden Mickey game grow in the 90s. Well, not in the 90s, but after the book came out in 2003. The other place I was finding Hidden Mickeys in the 90s was in the old Disney magazine. They would talk about Hidden Mickeys. So that's how I built my file that the first book came out of. Right.
So do you remember the first Hidden Mickey you found on your own? One that you stumbled upon without any help?
Well, again, I was going by these the Hidden Mickey posts on the early website, right, and from the Disney magazine, and so I would look for them. I would be prompted from this information. The other way, sometimes a cast member would tell me about one that I didn't know about. But I remember the first one that I really enjoyed a lot was at the old Snow White ride in the Magic Kingdom on the chimney. They had a mural at the loading dock, and there was a Hidden Mickey in the chimney rocks, right near where Snow White was standing. That really stuck with me. That was one of the first ones that I marveled at. I remember.
They go to such great lengths, the Imagineers, to kind of hide them, and it's such a cool thing to go and find them yourself, which is, there's a weird question about that for you. Who makes a decision on whether or not what someone finds is a Hidden Mickey? Are they now confirmed by Disney, or is that just something that you kind of have to confirm on your own?
That's a good question. There are many marginal or wishful thinking images, and it's in many cases it's difficult to know if it was purposefully placed by an Imagineer or a manager. Of course, over the years, we if you find a bunch of Hidden Mickeys and you know what a good one looks like, you get an inner sense, sort of a gestalt feeling if you see an image. Oh, that was put there on purpose, right. No question. yeah. So those are definitely are going to go in the book. The marginal ones, what I usually do is I like to have people vote on them, because I don't like to make the decision on my own necessarily. Especially if it's a 7-year-old boy or girl that's writing me with the image, I'm not going to tell them right off the bat, no, this is not a hidden Mickey. So I like to let folks vote on it and write me to know what they think. So that's how they get into the book. If there's an image that's kind of close but people really like it, it'll go in the book. Like, for many years, I struggled with 3 circles that were all the same size.
Right.
Okay, well, there's 2 examples of that. There's one in the queue of the Rock and Roller Coaster. In the entry queue, there's when you get inside the building, there's a tile floor. Well, there's 3 tiles that are they're all round and they're all the same size. They're very different from the tile pattern, so it looks purposeful, but it's not proportioned properly. But people love it, and cast members enjoy it, so I put it in the book. So that's an example of, it does seem purposeful. I will admit that.
Right. What's funny is looking at your book, I have it in my hand now. I'm just flipping to the back. The acknowledgements that you have for the other people that have pointed out the hidden Mickeys. I mean, it's just pages and pages of people. That's so cool that you included that into your book, so kind of people can go in there and see their name after they submit one to you.
Yeah, I keep track of everybody who writes me, and especially if their image is accepted into the hidden Mickey lexicon, so to speak. I'll put their name in the book. And if they find a lot of some folks are really avid hidden Mickey hunters, and they find a bunch.
Right.
There's a couple of names, and they're usually adults. I know the kids like it too, but the really good avid hidden Mickey hunters are usually adults, and they there's some people I have in mind. In fact, I haven't personally met a lot of these people, but they come to Disney World or Disneyland, or they cruise a lot, and they just spend days looking for hidden Mickeys, talking to cast members, and they'll send me new images. I think probably at Disney World alone, there's probably at least one new hidden Mickey a month on average.
Wow.
And you're right. The Imagineers have told me that the subject of hidden Mickeys comes up in planning sessions. Whether they're refurbishing an area or building a new attraction, the subject will come up at some point usually, and the Imagineer or manager will instruct one of the painters or the rock workers or the tile people to put an image, and they'll tell them where to do it and what they had in mind. So it's a subject that Disney at least talks about now.
Yeah. So are you going to get the call when they're doing Star Wars Land to say where the hidden Mickeys are going to go, or no? You should be on that team, I think.
Well, I don't work for Disney, so they keep me at arm's length because. Yeah. But they're very, they're nice to me, and the cast members, many of them know me. So, but yeah, some of the Imagineers will write me, and they'll say, "Steve, I'm putting a hidden Mickey, on this wall in Fantasyland, and I just want to let you know to look for it." Now, they won't let me use their name or any photos they send me. I got to find it myself. So, right. But that's okay. At least I know. Absolutely no question that's going to be a purposeful hidden Mickey, because the fella told me about it.
Yeah, that's so cool that you're kind of on the inside. That's very neat. I found I had actually a client go down a couple weeks ago, and she was asking me for challenges because she's a pretty frequent Walt Disney World guest. So a couple of the challenges I gave her were hidden Mickey challenges to find one.
Wonderful.
And the one in particular was the hidden Oswald in New Fantasyland.
Oh my goodness.
That's a really tough one to find, I think. If you're not, you really have to be paying attention to find that one.
So you're talking about the one on the roller coaster, the ride.
Oh, I'm not actually. I'm talking about
Oh, you're talking about the rocks in the road.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one too. There's There's another Oswald in the Seven Dwarfs
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
mine train, which is very difficult to see because it's on the wall while you're moving. But you're right. The one in the one in the walkway is also hard to find. I don't always walk right to it when I'm there. You have to look around for it.
Yeah. So I sent her the challenge, and so I gave her a couple tips as to where she might be able to find it. I really vague ones too, like you're going to walk past it today, because I knew where she was going for her fast passes, and her and her daughter, sure enough, they found it and they sent me a picture of it. So that was really cool, because
awesome.
That's a really hard one to find. Let me ask you. So when did Disney start to acknowledge that this was a legit thing and start selling your books in the parks and the resorts? Was that kind of immediate?
Actually, the call came to my publisher. I believe it was in about 2005. So the first book had been out a couple of years, and Disney called my publisher and asked if they could put it in the parks. And of course, after we picked ourselves off the floor, we said yes, of course. Now, that's always been an iffy relationship since I don't work for Disney.
Sure.
And there is I believe he's an ex-cast member in California who got on with Hyperion, and he's writing Hidden Mickey books. So that's going to probably trump my books in the parks at some point. However, that's okay. They're on Amazon, they're in bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, those kind of bookstores. You can find them for sure. But I don't know if I'm going to be continued in the parks. I hope I am, of course. But we'll see.
Well, to me, the yellow book with the red print, the red and black print, will always be the ultimate and real Hidden Mickey guide. So,
thank you.
That's what we're going to buy. And my 5.5-year-old daughter now, I'm getting her into it, and we have twin 3-year-olds who aren't quite there yet. But our 5.5-year-old, man, last trip she was pointing at random circles and asking me if that was a Hidden Mickey. It was a lot of fun. So she's into it.
Yes.
So do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite Hidden Mickey in all of Walt Disney World? One that you are excited to point out to people?
Well, you asked when. I want to relate this to your previous question.
Okay.
When Disney started acknowledging Hidden Mickeys, and I knew we had arrived when at a press conference for the new Fantasyland. It was in the AMC theaters at now Disney Springs. Then President Meg Crofton was talking to some journalists, and I was in the room. And she threw up a slide, and she said, "And I want you to look at this Hidden Mickey." And it's the once-a-year Hidden Mickey,
right?
Which occurs on November 18th, which is Mickey Mouse's birthday, so to speak. That's when Steamboat Willie, I believe, was debuted.
Right.
But anyway, on November 18th at noon, the Imagineers figured out where the sun would be in the sky, and they made holes in the ceiling of the queue of the Little Mermaid ride in Fantasyland, such that the sunlight would come through those holes and make a light image classic or a 3-circle Hidden Mickey on the wall. And so for the last 3 years, on November 18th at noon, I've not been able to make it because I still have a real job.
Right.
Anyway, it's usually during the week. But anyway, there are people that congregate around that area, and sure enough, it's appeared at noon on November 18th. So that's my favorite Hidden Mickey. And I knew, if the president of Disney is talking about Hidden Mickeys, then it's cool. It's a cool subject now.
Yeah, it's so cool. I've seen the pictures on your website. I guess some people have sent you of that Hidden Mickey. And to think about how they figured out exact position of the sun and on which day it would work is amazing. It's such a cool thing.
It is amazing, and of course, other people have written me smarter than me, sounds like. But anyway, they've said, well, the universe doesn't stay the same. And, eventually this thing is going to become distorted, or the sun's going to be in a different spot. So maybe they'll have to re-drill the holes at some point.
Nah, they can take care of that. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
The one that I think is one of the hardest ones to see is right by there. It's the Steamboat Willie one in the rocks.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
I can't find that one without help. Like, I've been through there with my kids, with my wife, and I've stared at those rocks trying to find it. And then I had a cast member kind of point me like in a direction to look. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this, it kind of makes sense. You have that in your book, and that's one that I think they went way, way, way over the top with.
Such an elaborate hidden Mickey. It's one.
Yeah, it's so cool.
My previous favorite was in the Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion at Epcot, and it's almost like a hologram.
Right.
It's in the mural of the Garden Grill restaurant inside, and it took my wife a year before she could even see the thing, and she only saw it when I took a photo of it and put it on my computer. She was able to see it. It's very hard for her to see when she's standing right there. So it's Mickey, kind of a Steamboat Willie type Mickey, looking out from behind a fern, and his face is behind the leaves, and it's hard to focus on him. It's a wonderful hidden Mickey.
Yeah, just the effort that it must take to put these in there, and like you were saying, for years and years they didn't even. It was like, it was an accident. It wasn't even on purpose. It's crazy.
Right.
So, okay, Disneyland. Do you have a favorite out there?
Probably the one that I. Well, of course, they in the Haunted Mansion they have the the saucers and plates like they do at Disney World. But that's a very good one. It's certainly one of my favorites out there. Let's see, one of my favorites, probably in Cars Land. There's some really good new ones, and any new area is hopefully going to continue to have great new hidden Mickeys. But on the Radiator Springs ride, there's a great image on as you're on the ride on there's a subtle hidden Mickey on an electrical box up to your right. I really like the ones that are placed on rides because they are hard to see. They're difficult to spot. But that's one of my favorites out there. And then really, though, the most unique ones, I think, at Disneyland are, again, in Cars Land, in Ramon's shop. In the windows around the outside of the shop are these car hoods that are painted by an artist who does that kind of paint work, and he puts subtle little hidden Mickey, a hidden Mickey on every one of those car hoods in the windows, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful job. Very hidden, very hard to see, but I love those hidden Mickeys.
Yeah, I don't remember that one at all. I'm trying to picture it in my head. I don't think I caught it when I was out there last year, so that's very cool. And the one thing, too, that I noticed that Imagineers have started to do is it's not just Mickey. Like we were saying, there's the hidden Oswald. There's other characters that they've kind of hidden in different places. And do you have and this will be my last favorite question, I promise, but do you have one of those that you like more than others, or can you speak about some of the ones that you've found, like different characters that are hidden?
The one that comes to mind is the R2D2 and C3PO in the hieroglyphics on the Great Movie Ride.
Yeah, that's a really cool one.
Just awesome, and it's in the Raiders of the Lost Ark room, and you don't stop in that room. And there are 4 great hidden Mickeys in that room, or hidden images, and you have to know exactly where to look if you're going to see them all, on one pass through the room. But yeah, the R2D2 and C3PO are great. there are hidden Goofies. There's a great hidden Minnie Mouse, and also in the great movie ride at the loading dock. It's a shadow of Minnie in the middle of the big mural at the loading dock. So yeah, there are other hidden characters that are around, and Oswald is appearing, as you mentioned. Since Disney has the rights to Oswald again, you're going to see hidden Oswalds hopefully popping up more.
Ever since they traded Al Michaels, they got to use hidden Oswald. They got to use Oswald again. That's a great story. I think I put that on my blog at one point. And what a goofy story that the way they got Oswald back was they traded him for the Monday Night Football announcer.
Right. A unique story.
It is. But yeah, and speaking about the movie ride too, is this an official one? The one where you're in the gangster scene and there's Mickey's feet coming out from behind the poster? Is that, I forget if that's in your book or not. I'm assuming it is.
It is. It's a great hidden Mickey. Of course, he also has a tail, if you notice, right behind his shoes there. But it's still, those are Mickey shoes. Yep. Yeah, so that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yeah, and then there's the one in the, I did, as I was looking over your book today, I remember the one from Splash Mountain in the Mickey in the Clouds, which is another very cool one. That
unfortunately, that's been just, some hidden Mickeys fade or get distorted with time.
Right.
And the cloud hidden Mickey in Splash Mountain, sometimes I don't see it. And so I don't know if that one is, if the area has been repainted and it's just not as obvious as it used to be. But yeah, be sure next time you're out there, look for it. And if you see it, try to snap a photo of it.
Sure, yeah, we definitely will. We're going to be back for Disney for the marathon weekend in January. So
there you go.
That's our next trip. I run the races every year.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. Yeah, thanks. So my daughter, I'm sure, will be going down book in hand this time. She's starting to read, so I'm in trouble because now I think she's going to be reading and finding them everywhere.
Yeah, we're already finding some new ones in the new Soarin' ride too.
Wow, that's really cool.
That's very cool. So
I haven't gotten to experience that one yet. I'm dying to try that one out.
Well, it just makes me happy that the Imagineers are still, they're still game for putting the hidden Mickeys in new attractions. So it's the game goes on. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and
my pleasure, Phil.
I really appreciate it. The books can be found they're still in Disney. They're on Amazon, you said, right? And they can be found on your website as well.
My website, Amazon, brick and mortar bookstores usually have a few copies. But online you can find them at my website and on Amazon. Yep.
Great. So that's hiddenmickeyguide.com. You can go to find those. Everybody who's listening, go buy the book because it's awesome. And
I have some good apps too, Phil. We have some good app guys here in Orlando, and we have an app for Disney World and Disneyland, and they keep it updated pretty well. It's wonderful graphics on the Hidden Mickey apps.
Very cool. I didn't know about the app, so now I'm going to have to add that to my repertoire next time I'm in the parks.
There you go.
All right, well, Steve, thank you so much again. I really
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
Phil.
And maybe we'll have you on again after the Star Wars, when Star Wars Land or Pandora, any of that stuff opens up.
Just let me know.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.
That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There podcast. Thank you again to Dr. Steve Barrett for stopping by to talk about his books. And as I was saying during the podcast, if you'd like to win a free copy of Steve Barrett's Hidden Mickey books, please stop by my business Facebook page. That's Ear to There Travel Facebook page. I will be having a Hollywood Studios Facebook trivia party on Thursday, July 7th, 2016. That starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Along with the Hidden Mickey books, I'll be giving out a grand prize of a $100 Disney gift card and also some other fun Disney prizes. I've done a bunch of these in the past and they're always a lot of fun, so please sign up for that and stop by on Thursday if you can. And if you're listening to this after Thursday, I'm really sorry that you missed out. Thank you as always for listening, and all I ask is if you did enjoy the show, please tell someone about it. Please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog. You know the guy at the bank that has that Mickey Mouse watch and you always want to ask him about it? Well, now you have a reason to. You say, hey, I like your watch. By the way, listen to this podcast. Trust me, that's a natural, normal conversation to have. And lastly, just remember there will be a new episode of the podcast each and every week on Monday morning. So until then, thanks, goodbye, have a great week.